there wasn't that many scripted shows as it was back then, and reality television was like starting to wasn't really there. It was like you had the Real World and stuff. It didn't really start picking up until
That's what I
like
was
the
watching.
2000s. Yeah, the
I stopped watching
2000s.
wrestling and started watching all the Real World and the Road
Yeah,
Rule.
yeah.
Don't hate on the Road Rule.
Yeah, so most of your must-watch television was on regular free television.
Right.
CBS, ABC, NBC,
Hmm.
Fox.
ABC.
I already said ABC. This is
Did you? ABC,
yeah. I say
NBC, CBS. Yeah, you did.
yes. Fox. Yeah. PBS. If you watch PBS, even though PBS is
First of
kind of
all, PBS is excellent.
yes, it is. They have stepped up their game with that Downton Abbey, but I didn't watch Downton Abbey when I heard.
Nerd. Nerd.
Yeah, yeah, but most of your must see television was on regular free television, whatever everyone
Free.
got.
Right.
So that was pretty big, and they were pulling in 10 million, sometimes 20 million people. Well,
That's a nice amount of money.
10 million. Yeah, 10 million people.
That ain't
And
bad.
it was people jumping ship from one company to another, back and
Of course.
forth.
Back and forth, yes.
It like who's going to appear next? What's going to be the big angle for this?
The big story, yeah.
The big story, and it was must see television on Monday nights. It was like, hey,
Mhm.
like yes, you gotta watch this. It was like first with WCW, they really the ones just jumped it off when they were able to sign Hulk Hogan back in '94 away from the WWF because the WWF at the time, which we need to go into a little bit, the WWF was moving away from like the larger, like over the top muscular wrestlers because of the steroids trial, because Vince McMahon was charged with with distributing steroids by the federal government.
And if you look at him without a shirt on, you will see that allegedly, that might have been true.
Yes, supposedly. But before we get into the steroids trial, let's talk a little bit about Vince McMahon, his early years. Like Vince McMahon was born in August of 45, excuse me. In North Carolina.
Right. Yes.
He was the youngest son of his mother Victoria, who just passed away at over 101.
Oh wow!
She just passed away this year, like
about
a couple of months ago. And his father, Vincent James McMahon. That's why he calls himself Vincent Kennedy, man.
But he didn't always call himself Kennedy, so I'm just wondering when did the change happen?
When he became the character Mr. McMahon.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
As opposed to just Vince McMahon.
Yeah. Vince didn't know who his father was initially.
And that.
Vince Senior, we'll call it Vince Senior, left the family when Vince Jr. was still a baby, and Vince Senior took his elder son Rod with him, so he didn't meet his father until he was age 12. Yeah, Vince McMahon has a brother. We never see him. He's never been on air. There's no pictures of him currently.
That's gonna be a plot. That's gonna be a storyline pretty soon.
I think they've tried to make him a storyline, and they tried to make him a storyline when Vince like supposedly died and his van was being blown up, and they were going to have the Vince McMahon memorial the next week on Raw.
That's some Telemundo type stuff.
Yeah. Wrestling is some people call wrestling a male soap opera.
Male soap opera.
Yeah. Like men can't watch regular soap operas. But hey, whatever. But yeah, he was supposed to, like, his brother supposedly, because everyone was going to come up, like his daughter, his wife, his son, other wrestlers, and give like he actually died and stuff. And his brother was supposed to show up and say, like, disparaging words about it. It was like I hated him my whole life and screw him. But
wasn't his wife? What wasn't her character like all played out? Like she was supposed to be injured and paralyzed.
yeah, she was. This was during WrestleMania, I think.
I'm mad. You know which one? I'm mad.
17, yeah, WrestleMania 17. Well, everyone remembers WrestleMania 17 because they say that's the best WrestleMania ever.
Really?
Yeah, they
Okay.
say that's the best WrestleMania ever, and I kind of agree with them because top to bottom that card was just excellent. But his wife, like his storyline is it's Vince. The match is Vince against his son Shane, and he's been like doing awful things to his son Shane, and like his whole family, and having an affair on his wife, and his wife went comatose, and he's telling doctors to keep her comatose and stuff like
Comatose.
that. And yeah, and it was the whole time she's just in this comatose state while he's making out with a wrestler at the time,
You.
Trish Stratus and stuff. Because the guy's fucking
You.
weird. Like Vince McMahon he's a lot of things, and weird is one of them. Yeah, weird is really one of them, and
A tad unnecessary.
yeah, and also like at the same time, and yeah, but yeah, that's different. But yeah, his brother was supposed to come back this whole thing, and it kind of got and it got kiboshed because the whole thing got kiboshed the next week because Chris Benoit killed his wife, his son, and himself. Yeah.
like
And yeah.
like that was a plot. That was a plot.
Well, no, that wasn't what
It happened in real life. Is that what you're saying?
yes. Chris Benoit. Yeah, Chris Benoit had murdered his
Oh
wife.
my God! Nobody
His
knows that.
yeah, a lot of people know it. I did an
Wait.
episode on it.
I think I'm confused. Chris Benoit murdered his own wife and his own son.
Yes, and killed
Not Vince.
himself.
Okay,
Yeah, not
that's
Vince
okay.
McMahon. Yeah,
Yes, yes, yes. Okay,
yeah,
got
yeah.
it.
That's not uh story. That's not scripted. That's not kayfabe.
Right.
That's what really
I
happened.
actually remember when Benoit died. I don't think I
Yeah,
remember his
yeah.
family. That's terrible. Okay.
Yeah. If you want more information on that, we did an episode on.
Nobody wants more.
Yeah, but I did do an episode a
That's
couple of years ago
terrible.
on the Chris Benoit
That's horrible.
murders. But yeah, that's what his brother. But
And that's a huge thing. That's one of the huge things, right? I mean, there's so much, and for a lot of reasons, right? There's a lot of addiction in terms of
yeah,
scripted wrestling. There's a lot of mental illness.
yeah,
There's a lot of physical abuse.
yeah, yeah. It's a lot, especially back in the like the height of it, especially the 80s and
Hmm.
90s and early 2000s. I mean, it's kind of cleaned up now. They do the WWE does wellness policy,
Right.
and concussion protocols and stuff like that. Um, like the like other leagues, even though you can probably say that their concussion protocol and stuff are probably worse than say the NFL, but at least it's there. And
It
even in
exists.
yeah,
Yeah.
and even in other wrestling organizations, they they've gone with no more steel chairs to the head.
Jeeps.
Yeah, no more chairs to the head. Period. In WWE, other places they do gimmick chairs,
Okay.
unless it's death match, but that's totally different. We're not talking about death matches, and yeah, we're not talking about death matches. It's gotten better. Their drug and wellness policy is there.
Okay. Okay.
There was a joke about, oh, there's certain people like, oh, we got a drug and wellness policy. Oh yeah, but certain people they don't test.
Yikes.
But yeah, it
Yikes.
not like their drug and wellness policy was just in the news briefly because they took off marijuana because they would fine you for they like early, like when they established it, they would suspend you for any marijuana uh test that you give. Then they took it down to fine you. Now they're just not testing you for marijuana at all.
Because what? It's legal wherever
It's
they're censored?
legal, and like there's more studies on it that it's a lot more helpful than say
Crack.
yeah, crack. Or what's that drug? Oxy.
Okay.
Instead of giving you oxy, it's just like I'll just take an edible. So
Yikes. Yikes.
So yeah. Well, yeah, shoot, yeah. I'd rather take an edible than take some oxy if I'm in pain.
That's true. An edible.
Yeah.
That's I thought you said Adderall. You're saying
No,
edible.
edible. Edible. Edible.
I thought you
Yeah.
Adderall. Okay.
Okay, so let's get back to the story because we're way off key. So Vince Jr.'s paternal grandfather was also promoter named Roderick James Jess McMahon. He is the one that started the WWE.
Really?
Roderick Jess. He's the one that started it. WWE was not WWE is like its current incarnation. It originally started as Capital Wrestling Corporation, the CWC, and it started in 1953.
Wow.
Yeah, it was started by Jess McMahon, who was a successful boxing promoter. He started with Toots Mott. That's another like famous wrestling promoter. They primarily ran in the northeast of the United States. See, back in the day, wrestling was not this global type thing. It was, of course, really in the territory. In the United States, they had territories. So, like in the Northeast, was mainly run by Capital Wrestling. Then it became the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. Then they shorted it to the World Wrestling Federation in WWE, which you know now. But like the Northeast had its own territory. The Midwest, the West Coast, the Upper Pacific Northwest, the South was split up. Texas had its own thing. I guess the Mid-Atlantic had their own thing. The Middle Confederacy, whatever, they all had their own thing. They all pretty much had their own thing, and they were on their own territories, and like they would swap guys from certain places and stuff like that. And it was mainly under a one umbrella called the National Wrestling Alliance, the NWA.
Okay.
The NWA, yeah, to tell you, like the NWA is still going on now. It's its own national entity. You know, it's not a territory. It's currently owned by Smashing Pumpkins frontman Billy Corgan.
Shut up! Are you serious?
Yes, it is. It is owned by him. He owns the NWA. They kind of like it was kind of like they considered it a dead organization for a long time, and but it was still a touring organization. It really had no television, and then Billy Corgan bought it and his whole thing because he was a big wrestling fan, and he wanted to make wrestling like how he used to watch it in the 70s. So it's kind of like the NWA is kind of like they have a show they have a couple of shows on YouTube. They have like what they call pay-per-view special events that runs occasionally, a couple of them to a year. It still is viable. It's probably where I would rank it as the 5th largest wrestling company in the United States.
That ain't bad.
But what it used to be the whole territory. It was just he controlled the territories. Like and back in the day, they like every territory had their own champion, but like the world champion was considered the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. And that person would tour the different territories it defended, and they would decide who would be champion and stuff like that. So how the WWF really got its start. It was a